The 3 moons of Huan 7 cast long shadows across the purple forests. Commander Hana stood at the tall window of her mountain fortress. Her hands were tight fists at her sides. The mining lights of the human settlement blinked in the distance, like unwelcome stars on her world. "They broke the agreement," she said to the empty room. Her voice was cold and sharp. Hana was the leader of the eastern territory of Huan 7. Her people, the Huan, had lived on this world for thousands of years. They were shorter than humans, with skin that shimmered blue in certain light. Their eyes were large and dark, good for seeing in the dim purple forests of their home world. The humans had arrived 10 years ago. At first, they stayed in the dry plains where the Huan rarely went. They dug for metals and strange crystals. The Huan allowed this because the humans brought useful things to trade. But now the humans had gone too far. Hana turned when she heard the door open. Her advisor, Tay, entered with a digital map. "They have moved 5 more machines into the Sacred Valley," Tay said. He placed the map on the table. Small red dots showed where the humans were digging. "They are less than 1 kilometer from the Ancestor Stones." Hana's face darkened. The Ancestor Stones were the most holy place for her people. No Huan would dare to dig or build near them. "I spoke with their leader yesterday," she said. "The one they call Park. He said they would stop." "He lied," Tay said simply. Hana walked to a different window. This one faced the mountains behind, her fortress. In those mountains lived the Baekho, the great wolf-like creatures that were both feared and respected by her people. The Huan had worked for generations to form bonds with these dangerous animals. Not to tame them, no one could truly tame a Baekho, but to direct their hunting skills. "Send a message to Jin," Hana ordered. "Tell him to prepare Dai." Tay's eyes widened. "Day? The Alpha Baekho? Are you sure?" "The humans need to learn," Hana said firmly. "They think because we are smaller, because we are fewer, they can ignore our words. They will not ignore this message." Tay bowed and left quickly. Hana remained at the window watching the darkness of the mountains. The humans had brought their noisy machines and their digging tools, but her people had the Baekho, and Day was the largest, strongest, and smartest of them all. The next morning, Hana walked down the long stone steps to the Baekho training grounds. These grounds were cut into the side of the mountain, hidden from view. Here the beast handlers of the Huan worked with the wolf creatures. Jin waited for her at the bottom of the steps. He was the most skilled beast handler among her people. His arm showed many scars from his work. "Is Day ready?" she asked. Jin nodded. "Yes, Commander. But I must ask, are you sure this is wise? Day has never been sent against humans before." "The humans understand strength," Hana said. "We tried words. Now they will listen to teeth and claws." Jin led her to a large metal gate. Beyond it was a training area with high walls. Inside, a massive shape moved in the shadows. Day was 3 times bigger than an earth wolf. His fur was silver blue, shining in the early morning light. His eyes glowed amber, watching them without blinking. When he moved, his muscles rippled under his thick coat. His teeth were as long as Hana's fingers. "Beautiful, isn't he?" Jin said with pride. "The biggest Baekho in 3 generations." Hana stepped closer to the gate. "Will he understand the mission?" "Yes," Jin said. "The control implant works perfectly. I will program him to find the human leader and kill him. Only him. Then return." "No," Hana said after thinking. "I want him to kill the human in front of the others. Let them all see what happens when they break their promises to us." Jin looked worried. "That makes the task more dangerous. There will be many humans with weapons." "Can Day do it?" Hana asked. Jin looked at the great beast. "Yes, no human weapon has ever pierced a Baekho's hide, and Day is the strongest I have ever trained." "Then do it," Hana ordered. "Tonight." That evening, Hana watched from her fortress as Jin prepared Day for the hunt. The beast handler attached a small device behind the Baekho's ear. The control implant would guide the animal to its target. "Find the human leader," Jin whispered to the beast, the one called Park. Kill him where the other humans can see, then return to me. Day's amber eyes seemed to understand. The great wolf. Creature turned and bounded into the purple forest, disappearing like a shadow. Hana felt a moment of doubt. Was this too extreme? But then she remembered the red dots on the map, creeping closer to the ancestor stones. No, the humans needed to learn. This was the only language they would understand. In the human mining settlement, Foreman Park worked late in his office. He was a tall man with strong shoulders and calm eyes. His black hair was cut short, and a few gray strands showed at his temples. Park studied maps of the area on his computer screen. His finger traced the line where his mining operation ended, and the zone the locals called Forbidden began. According to his company's scans, the richest deposits lay just beyond that line. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. A young engineer named Min entered, looking worried. "Sir, the locals are angry about the new dig sites." Park sighed. "I know. Their leader came yesterday. She threatened to stop us," Min said. "With what?" Park asked. "They have no weapons that can match ours." Min shifted uncomfortably. "The workers talk about giant wolves in the mountains. They say the locals can control them." Park smiled slightly. "Old stories to scare us away from the good mining spots." Some of the night shift workers claim they've seen eyes watching from the forest edge. "Big eyes, glowing amber," Min persisted. "Probably just local wildlife," Park said. "Nothing to worry about. We have the perimeter fences and security systems." After Min left, Park returned to his maps. But something nagged at his mind. During the briefing before he took this assignment, there had been mentions of large predators native to Huan 7. The company had dismissed them as no threat to the mining operation. Park opened a different file on his computer. His personal file. The one the company didn't know about. Before becoming a mining foreman, Park had been something else entirely. Something the company would never have hired if they knew. The file contained information about the local wildlife, including the creatures. The locals called Bayekho, much larger and smarter than earth wolves, semi-domesticated by the natives. Park closed the file and opened a drawer in his desk. Inside was a small black case. He hadn't expected to need it on this assignment, but old habits died hard. He always came prepared. As the night grew darker outside his window, Park felt a strange certainty grow within him. Something was coming. Years of survival in hostile environments had given him instincts that rarely failed. He opened the black case and removed a small device. If the stories about these wolf creatures were true, he might need it sooner rather than later. In the darkness beyond the settlement's lights, a shadow moved. Amber eyes glowed. Day had found his target. Day moved through the purple forest like a ghost. His massive paws made no sound on the soft ground. The silver-blue fur on his body caught the moonlight, and then seemed to swallow it. He was a shadow among shadows. The great beast paused at the edge of the forest. Before him lay the open ground that surrounded the human settlement. Strange metal buildings rose up and bright lights shone everywhere. Day had never been this close to the human place before. The smells were new and strange. The control implant behind his ear buzzed softly. It pushed images into his mind. A human male, the leader, the one he must hunt. The implant also showed him where to go. There, at the edge of the settlement, was a small building away from the others. That was where his prey waited. Day lowered his body and began to creep forward. The implant told him to avoid the lights, to stay in the shadows. He circled around the edge of the settlement, where the fence stood between him and his prey. The fence was tall, but Day was taller. He gathered his powerful muscles and jumped. His huge body sailed over the barrier easily. He landed softly on the other side, still hidden in darkness. Now he was among the human buildings. New smells filled his sensitive nose. Metal, chemicals, food he did not recognize, and the scent of many humans. But the implant focused his mind. Find the leader. Kill him where others can see. Return. As Day moved between the buildings, he noticed something strange. There were no guards, no watchers. In the Huan fortress, there were always guards at night, but the humans seemed to trust their lights and fences to protect them. Foolish, Day thought. Then he stopped, surprised at his own thought. The control implant usually did not allow such clear thinking. Something was different tonight. Ahead of him stood the small building where his target waited. A light glowed in one window. Day crept closer. Inside his office, Park felt a chill run down his spine. Years of survival in dangerous places had given him a sixth sense for danger. Something was watching him. He casually reached over and switched, off the main light, leaving only his desk lamp on. Then he moved to the window and looked out into the darkness. At first he saw nothing. Then he caught a gleam, 2 amber eyes reflecting the light from his window. "So the stories are true," Park whispered. He moved quickly to his desk and opened the black case again. Inside was a small device that looked like a metal disc with buttons. He had acquired it years ago, during a different assignment on a different world. A world where humans had learned to communicate with predator species. Park also took a small handgun from the case. He hoped he wouldn't need it, but hope was not a strategy. He slipped out the back door of his office. The night air was cool on his face. The 3 moons of Huan 7 gave enough light to see by. Once his eyes adjusted, Park moved carefully around the corner of the building. There, in the shadow between his office and the next building, was a shape, darker than the night itself. A massive creature, larger than any wolf Park had ever seen. Its shoulders stood as high as Park's chest, and its amber eyes glowed in the moonlight. Most men would have run. Most men would have shot at the beast. Park did neither. Instead, he looked directly at the creature and spoke calmly. "I know you're there," he said, "and I think we both know why you've come." Day froze when the human spoke. No prey had ever done this before. They always ran or fought. This one did neither. He stood still and looked directly at Day, as if he knew what Day was thinking. The control implant buzzed angrily behind Day's ear. "Kill," it commanded. "Kill now." But Day hesitated. There was something different about this human. He showed no fear, and he seemed to be waiting for something. Slowly, the human reached into his pocket. Day tensed, ready to leap if the human pulled out a weapon. But instead, the man took out a small metal disc. "You understand more than they think you do, don't you?" the human said softly. Then he pressed something on the disc. A sound came from it, so low that no human could hear it clearly. But to Day, it was perfectly clear. It was a sound like the deep calls that Baiko used to speak to each other. Across long distances, the implant buzzed more urgently. "Kill, kill, kill." But Day was confused now. The human was trying to speak to him. Not with human words, but with sounds like Baiko sounds. The human adjusted something on the disc, and the sound changed slightly. Now it sounded like a greeting call, the kind young Baiko used when meeting an elder. Day tilted his massive head to one side. The human was speaking Baiko language. How was this possible? Park watched the giant wolf creature carefully. He could see it was confused. Good. Confusion was better than attack. He adjusted the settings on his translator device again, producing another low-frequency sound. During the war, before he became a mining foreman, Park had specialized in communication with alien species. On 3 different worlds, he had made first contact with intelligent predator species that other humans had dismissed as mere animals. His commanders had called it a gift. Park just called it patience and observation. Now he was using that gift, again. The translator device couldn't actually speak the language of these wolf creatures, the Baiko as the locals called them. But it could produce sounds in the right frequency range to get their attention. "I'm not your enemy," Park said calmly, though he knew the creature couldn't understand his words. What mattered was his tone and body language. He kept his posture, relaxed but alert, showing respect rather than fear. The beast took a step forward into the moonlight. Park's breath caught in his throat. It was magnificent. Silver blue fur covered its muscular body. Its head was massive, with intelligent amber eyes that watched him carefully. It stood nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder. Its teeth, barely visible as its mouth opened slightly, were as long as hunting knives. Then Park noticed something odd, a small device attached behind the creature's ear. It looked like some kind of implant. Based on how the beast kept shaking its head slightly as if bothered by something, Park guessed the device might be controlling it somehow. He adjusted his translator again, producing a sound that mimicked a soothing call. The giant wolf hesitated, then took another step forward. "That's it," Park said softly. "Easy now." The strange sounds the human made were confusing, but not threatening. Day felt torn between the implant's commands and his own curiosity. No human had ever tried to communicate with a Bekho before. The Huan barely communicated with them, relying on the implants to control rather than to understand. "Kill," the implant insisted. "Kill now." But Day wanted to understand this strange human first. The man continued to make sounds with his device, sounds that resembled Bekho calls but weren't quite right. Yet the attempt itself was interesting. Day took another step forward. Now he was fully in the moonlight, no longer hidden by shadows. The human could see all of him, yet still showed no fear. The implant's buzz became painful. "Kill!" it seemed to shout inside Day's head. The pain made Day growl. He shook his massive head, trying to clear it. Park saw the creature's discomfort. The implant was clearly causing it pain. The beast shook its head again, more violently this time. "It's hurting you, isn't it?" Park said. "That thing behind your ear." The creature growled, a deep rumble that Park felt in his chest more than heard with his ears. Park made a decision. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but his instincts told him it was right. He set down his gun on the ground and held up his empty hands. "I'm going to help you," he said, "if you let me." Slowly, very slowly, Park began to move toward the massive predator. Time seemed to stop as Park took slow, careful steps toward the massive wolf creature. The Bekho watched him with intelligent amber eyes. Every few seconds it would shake its head as if fighting against pain. "Easy," Park said softly. "I just want to look at that device on your ear." The night was quiet around them. Most of the mining crew was asleep in their quarters on the other side of the settlement. No one was around to see this strange meeting. When Park was 3 steps away from the Bekho, the creature growled. The sound was so deep that Park felt it in his chest more than heard it with his ears. He stopped immediately. "Okay," he said. "This is close enough for now." The Bekho's silver-blue fur shimmered in the moonlight. Up close, Park could see patterns in the fur, swirls and markings that reminded him of the night sky. The creature was even more impressive near. Its shoulders reached Park's chest and its head was massive, with a mouth that could easily crush a human skull. Park held up his translator device so the Bekho could see it clearly. "This helps me talk to you," he explained, knowing the creature. Couldn't understand his words, but hoping his calm tone would help. He adjusted a dial on the device and it emitted a low, rumbling sound. The Bekho's ears perked up. The sound was similar to a greeting call used by its kind. The beast tilted its head, curious. Then it made a sound back, a rumble followed by a soft whine. Park smiled. "That's good. We're talking now." For the next hour, Park sat on the ground about 2 meters away from the Bekho. He would make sounds with his device and the creature would respond. Slowly, very slowly, Park began to understand some basic patterns. The Bekho was not just mimicking the sounds. It was communicating. "You're much smarter than they think, aren't you?" Park said. The implant behind the creature's ear buzzed again and the Bekho shook its head in pain. A low growl escaped its throat. "That thing is hurting you," Park said. "I want to help." He stood up slowly. The Bekho watched him carefully but didn't back away. Park took a small step forward, then another. "I'm going to try to look at the implant," he said. "I won't hurt you." When he was just 1 step away from the creature, Park slowly reached out his hand. The Bekho could have bitten his arm off easily, but it didn't. Instead, it lowered its head slightly, as if allowing Park to touch it. Park's fingers gently touched the silver-blue fur. It was softer than he expected. He moved his hand carefully toward the creature's ear, where the implant was attached. The device was small but complex. It had tiny lights that blinked green and red. A thin wire went under the skin. Park had seen similar technology before, on other worlds. Control implants were common tools used to manage dangerous animals. "This is wrong," Park whispered. "You're not just an animal, are you?" The backhoe made a soft sound, almost like a whimper. The implant buzzed again, and the creature winced. Park made a decision. "I'm going to try to turn it off. It might hurt." For a moment, he examined the implant carefully. There was a small switch on one side. Park hesitated. If he turned off the implant, the creature would no longer be controlled. It might attack him. But his instincts told him to trust the backhoe. He flipped the switch. The implant's lights turned red, then went dark. The backhoe shuddered, then stood very still. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the creature shook its massive head as if clearing its thoughts. Its amber eyes focused on Park with new clarity. "Better?" Park asked. The backhoe made a sound, a complex series of rumbles and soft howls. Without the pain of the implant, its voice was richer, more expressive. Park used his translator to respond. For another hour they exchanged sounds. The communication was basic, but Park began to understand that the backhoe, which he now knew called itself Day, was thanking him. "You're welcome, Day," Park said. "Though I don't think your masters will be happy about this." In her mountain fortress, Haina paced back and forth. It was nearly dawn and Day had not returned. "Something has gone wrong," she said to Jin, who stood nearby. "The human should be dead by now." Jin looked worried. "The implant signal is still active, but it's not moving. Dai has been in the same location for hours." "Where?" Hana demanded. Jin showed her a map on a small screen. "Here, at the edge of the human settlement, near a small building." "Is the human dead?" Hana asked. Jin checked another screen. "The implant doesn't tell us that. It only controls and tracks Day." Hana's face darkened with anger. "Prepare my transport. I will go see what has happened." "Commander," Jin said nervously, "it will be dawn soon. The humans will be awake and active. It might be dangerous." "Are you suggesting I am afraid of humans?" Hana snapped. Jin bowed quickly. "No, Commander. I will prepare your transport immediately." As the first light of dawn touched the sky, Park and Day had reached a new understanding. Through simple sounds and body language, they had established trust. Park had learned several important things. First, the backhoe were far more intelligent than either humans or Huan had realized. They had their own language and culture. Second, the Huan had been controlling them with the implants for generations, using pain to make them obey. "This changes everything," Park said. He looked at the implant in his hand. He had carefully removed it from Day's ear. The process had been painful for the creature, but Day had trusted him enough to allow it. Day made a series of sounds. "The others?" Park asked, trying to understand. "There are more like you with implants?" Day nodded his massive head. The gesture was so human-like that Park smiled. "You want me to help them too?" Park guessed. Day made an affirmative sound. Park thought quickly. The mining company wouldn't care about the backhoe. They only wanted the minerals. And the Huan clearly saw the creatures as tools, not as intelligent beings with rights. "This is going to cause trouble," Park said. "But it's the right thing to do." He stood up and looked at Day. "We need to show both our peoples that you're more than just animals, that you deserve respect." Day tilted his head, listening carefully. "I have an idea," Park said. "But it's crazy and dangerous." He looked into Day's amber eyes. "Would you let me ride on your back, to show everyone that we can work together?" Day seemed to consider this for a long moment. Then, to Park's amazement, the massive creature lowered its body to the ground, making it easier for a human to climb onto its back. Park laughed softly. "I didn't expect you to agree so quickly." He hesitated only briefly before climbing carefully onto Day's back. The creature's fur was thick and provided good handholds. When Park was seated securely between Day's shoulder blades, the backhoe stood up smoothly. The feeling was incredible. Park was now riding 3 meters above the ground on the back of the most dangerous predator on Juan 7. He felt a surge of excitement mixed with fear. "Let's start small," Park suggested. "Just a walk around the building for now." Day began to move. His gait was surprisingly smooth, like riding a well-trained horse but much higher off the ground. They circled the small office building once, then twice. "This is amazing," Park said. Just then they heard a sound in the distance. A Juan transport was approaching the settlement from the direction of the mountains. "Looks like your masters are coming to check on you," Park said. "Time to show them what we've learned." Day made a sound that Park interpreted as agreement. "Let's go meet them," Park said. "But slowly. We don't want to scare them too much." Day turned toward the settlement entrance where the Juan transport would arrive. With confident steps, the massive predator carried his human rider forward, ready to change the future of 3 species forever. Hana's transport landed at the edge of the human settlement, just as the first sun of Juan 7 rose over the purple forests. The vehicle was small but elegant, with curved lines that reflected Juan design. It settled on the ground with barely a sound. Hana stepped out, followed by 4 Juan guards. Each guard carried a slim energy weapon. They were nervous about being in the human settlement. "The signal from Day's implant is coming from that direction," Jin said, pointing toward a small building at the edge of the compound. "Is the human dead?" Hana asked again. Jin checked his tracking device. "I still cannot tell. The implant only shows location, not what Day has done." Hana frowned. "Then we will go see for ourselves." As they began walking toward the building, a few humans appeared from other structures. They stared at the Juan visitors with surprise and suspicion. Some of them called to others, and soon a small crowd began to gather. "Commander," one of the guards whispered, "there are many humans watching us." "Let them watch," Hana said firmly. "They will learn what happens when they break agreements with the Juan." Suddenly, a murmur ran through the crowd of humans. They were pointing at something. Hana turned to look. What she saw made her freeze, in shock. Coming toward them, walking calmly down the main path of the settlement, was Day. The massive backhoe moved with grace despite his enormous size. His silver-blue fur caught the morning light and seemed to glow. But what truly shocked Hana was what, or rather who, was on Day's back. The human foreman, Park, sat tall between the backhoe's shoulder blades. He had one hand resting lightly on Day's neck, not gripping or controlling, but simply balancing. His face was calm, his eyes fixed on Hana. "Impossible," Jin whispered beside her. The human miners backed away as the massive predator walked past them. Some raised tools as weapons, but when they saw that Park was riding the beast willingly, they lowered them again in confusion. Day stopped about 10 meters from Hana and her guards. Park made no move to climb down. "Good morning, Commander Hana," Park called out. His voice was steady and confident. Hana could barely find her voice. "What have you done?" she finally managed to say. "I've made a new friend," Park replied simply. "Though I think you sent him to kill me." The Juan guards raised their weapons, pointing them at Day. The backhoe growled, a deep sound that made everyone, human and Juan alike, take a step back. "Lower your weapons," Park said calmly. "Day doesn't want to hurt anyone, and neither do I." Hana stared at the human sitting on the back of the most dangerous predator on her world. It should have been impossible. No one rode a backhoe. The creatures were too wild, too fierce. "How did you do this?" she demanded. Park held up a small object. It took Hana a moment to recognize it as the control implant that should have been behind Day's ear. "I removed this," Park said. "It was hurting him, causing him pain to control him." Jin gasped. "Without the implant, he should have killed you." "That's what you believed," Park said. "But you were wrong about the backhoe. They're not just animals to be controlled. They're intelligent beings. They can think. They can communicate. They deserve respect, not pain." Hana's face showed a mix of emotions: shock, disbelief and anger. The Bekho have always served the Huan, for countless generations. Served? Park asked. Or been enslaved? Several humans had moved closer to listen. They looked at the massive predator with new eyes. One of them, Min, stepped forward. Sir, Min said to Park, are you saying these wolf creatures are intelligent? Like, they can think? Yes, Park said. They have their own language, their own culture. The Huan have been controlling them through pain, using these implants. He held up the device again for all to see. Hana's anger grew. You know nothing of our ways, human. The Bekho are dangerous. They must be controlled for the safety of all. Is that what you really believe? Park asked. Or is it just what you were taught? Hana opened her mouth to reply, but was interrupted by a sound from the forest edge. A long, deep howl rose into the morning air. Then another joined it, and another. All eyes turned toward the purple forest. Amber eyes glowed in the shadows between the trees. Many pairs of eyes. More Bekho, Jin whispered, his face pale. Many, more. Day lifted his massive head and answered the howls with one of his own. The sound vibrated through the air, powerful and wild. Park spoke again, his voice carrying across the now silent crowd. Day has called his pack. They've come to see what's happening. Hana looked from the forest edge, where at least a dozen. Bekho now stood watching, to Park sitting confidently on Day's back. Her world was changing before her eyes, and she was losing control of the situation. What do you want, human? She demanded. I want peace, Park said simply. Between humans, Huan, and Bekho, but real peace, based on understanding and respect, not control. He patted Day's neck gently. I've learned more about the Bekho in one night than your people have in generations, because I listened to him instead of trying to control him. One of the Huan guards whispered urgently to Hana. Commander, we are outnumbered. If the Bekho attack... Hana raised her hand to silence him. She needed to think. The mining company doesn't care about the Bekho, Park continued. They only want the minerals. But I care. And I think deep down you care too, Commander. You've just never questioned the old ways. Hana looked at Day. The massive predator was watching her with intelligent amber eyes, eyes that seemed to understand everything being said. Could the human be right? Had her people been wrong about the Bekho all this time? I propose a meeting, Park said. Tomorrow, at neutral ground. Bring your leaders. I'll bring mine. And Day will bring his pack. We'll talk. Really talk for the first time. The human miners murmured among themselves. Some looked afraid, others curious. The Huan guards kept their weapons ready, watching the Bekho at the forest edge nervously. Hana straightened her back. And if I refuse? Park's face grew serious. Then we all lose. The mining will continue to damage your sacred lands. The Bekho will continue to suffer. And eventually, there will be blood spilled on all sides. Day growled, softly, as if emphasizing Park's words. Think about it, Commander, Park said. You sent Day to kill me. Instead, he and I found understanding. Maybe that's a sign that we should all try to understand each other better. Hana looked from Park to Day, then to the other Bekho watching from the forest edge. Finally, she looked at her own people, the Huan guards who awaited her decision. The choice she made now would shape the future of all three species on Huan 7. 3 days after the confrontation at the human settlement, representatives from all three species gathered in a large clearing halfway between the mining operation and the Huan fortress. The place was ancient, with tall stones set in a circle. The Huan called it the Speaking Grounds, a neutral place where disputes had been settled for generations. The 3 moons of Huan 7 hung low in the afternoon sky. The purple forests surrounded the clearing, their leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. Park arrived first, riding on Day's back. In the past 3 days, they had spent every waking hour together. Park had improved his translator device, making it easier to communicate with the Bekho. And Day had brought other members of his pack to meet the human. Behind Park and Day came 12 more humans from the mining settlement. They walked carefully, still nervous around the massive predators. Min was among them, carrying recording equipment to document the historic meeting. "Are you ready for this?" Park asked Day, patting the great wolf's neck. Day made a rumbling sound that Park now understood as agreement. The Bayekho's language was complex, based on a combination of sounds and body movements. Park was learning quickly, but still only understood the basics. From the other side of the clearing came Hana and 20 Huan. They walked in a formal procession, wearing ceremonial clothes decorated with silver thread. Jin was beside Hana, looking uncomfortable. The beast handler kept glancing at the tree line. Hana stopped in the center of the clearing. She wore a simple silver circlet on her head, marking her as the leader of her people. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed her inner struggle. The past 3 days had forced her to question everything she had been taught about the Baekho. "Foreman, Park," she said formally. "We have come as agreed." Park nodded. "Thank you for meeting us, Commander Hana." At that moment, movement came from the forest. The humans and Huan turned to watch as more Baekho emerged from between the trees. 10, 20, 30 of the massive predators walked into the clearing. They moved with grace despite their enormous size. Their silver-blue fur caught the light, creating a rippling sea of movement. At the front of the pack was a female Baekho, nearly as large as Day. Her eyes were a deeper amber, and she carried herself with unmistakable authority. "That is Sul, the pack leader," Day told Park through a series of rumbles that the translator converted to simple words. Park slid down from Day's back and stepped forward to greet both Hana and Sul. He stood between the three groups, a bridge between species. "We are here to talk," Park said clearly, "to find a way forward that respects all of our needs and rights." Hana glanced at the Baekho pack. "How do we know what they want? We cannot understand them as you claim to." Park held up his translator device. "With this, I can understand some of what they say, and with time we can build better translators. But today, I will speak for them, with their permission." Sul, the female pack leader, moved forward and stood beside Day. She made a series of sounds and movements that Park's translator converted to simple words. "She says they want freedom," Park translated. "No more implants, no more control through pain. They want to be seen as thinking beings, not as tools or weapons." Jin stepped forward, his face troubled. "But the Baekho have always served the Huan. Our oldest stories tell of the bonds between our peoples." Park looked at Sul, then at Dai. He adjusted his translator to hear their response. "Dai says the first bonds were not based on control," Park translated. "Long ago, Huan and Baekho worked together as equals. The implants came later when some Huan forgot the old ways." Hana's eyes widened. "Is this true? Our histories do not tell this." One of the older Huan in Hana's group stepped forward slowly. His face was lined with age, and his hands trembled slightly. "There are old stories," the elder said quietly. "Stories my grandmother told me, about a time when Huan and Baekho hunted together, lived together, without the need for control. I thought they were just children's tales." Sul made another series of sounds. Park listened carefully through his translator. "Sul says the Baekho remember," Park said. "They pass their history down through generations. They remember when your peoples were friends, not master and servant." Hana looked troubled. "Even if this is true, the Baekho are dangerous. The implants keep our people safe." "Do they?" Parky asked. "Look around you. There are over 30 Baekho here, none with implants, yet no one has been harmed." The humans and Huan looked around nervously. It was true. Despite being surrounded by the massive predators, not a single person had been threatened. "What about the Sacred Valley?" Hana asked, changing the subject. "Your mining operation destroys land important to my people." Park nodded. "I've spoken with my company. They've agreed to move the mining operation away from your sacred sites." Min stepped forward with a digital map. "We found another deposit, further from the ancestor stones. The mining can continue there without disturbing your holy places." Hana looked surprised. Your company agreed to this? Yes, Park said. When I explained the situation, they understood that good relations with the Huan are more valuable than any specific mining site. Sul made another series of sounds, more urgent this time. Sul says there's something else you should know, Park translated. The valley you call sacred, where the ancestor stones stand, is also sacred to the Bekho. It's their breeding ground, where they have raised their young for generations. Hana and Jin exchanged shocked looks. We never knew, Hana said softly. Because you never asked, Park replied gently. The Bekho couldn't tell you because you controlled them instead of talking to them. For a long moment the clearing was silent except for the rustle of leaves in the wind. Then Hana did something unexpected. She walked slowly towards Sul, the pack leader. The massive Bekho watched her approach with intelligent amber eyes. Hana stopped just before the great wolf and bowed deeply. On behalf of my people, I apologize for our ignorance, for the pain we caused. Sul lowered her massive head until it was level with Hana's. Their eyes met, Predator and Huan, in a moment of understanding that needed no translation. Park smiled as he watched. It was a small step but an important one. Over the next several hours, the three species talked. Using Park's translator and with patience on all sides, they began to forge a new understanding. By the time the suns began to set, they had the beginnings of an agreement. The humans would move their mining operation away from the sacred valley. The Huan would remove the control implants from all Bekho. And the Bekho would help both species by patrolling the borders and keeping everyone safe from the truly dangerous creatures that lived deep in the forests. As the meeting ended, Park found himself standing between Day and Hana, watching the three groups begin to mingle cautiously. This is just the beginning, Park said. We have much to learn from each other. Hana nodded. You have changed everything, human. When I sent Day to kill you, I never imagined this outcome. Park patted Day's massive shoulder. Sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to make them a friend. Day made a rumbling sound that Park now recognized as laughter. As they walked back toward the settlement, with Day carrying both Park and Hana on his broad back, Park thought about how a simple mining assignment had turned into something much more important. He had helped three species find peace and understanding. High above, the three moons of Huan 7 shone down on the procession of humans, Huan and Bekho, walking together toward a new future.